For the first aggregation of people, to move meant to find a better place to live. In this case, for the population whose sustenance came from hunting, pasturing and harvesting, the nomadism optimizes assets disponibility. So, for nomads, wealth comes from mobility. Traveling in ancient Greece was not easy due to the mountainous nature of the territory. Greeks preferred traveling by sea. They were able builders of boats and they succeeded in establishing trade, driving across the Mediterranean Sea in every direction and using the sun and the constellation to orient themselves. Few favored moving. Warriors traveled for military reasons. Traders traveled carrying goods on their own boats. Pilgrims traveled through Pan-Hellenic sanctuaries. Artisans left their lands to find a better job. People traveled and moved for necessity, facing the unknown and were aware of the risks and dangers. During the Middle Ages, traveling was difficult. On flat lands, it took 3 or 4 days to travel 160 kilometers. Few people could afford horses, and farm wagons were uncomfortable and unsafe. For people traveling by sea, it was faster to navigate, but the shipwreck and piracy were frequent episodes. During the Middle Ages, religion played a very important role in people's lives. The travel was pilgrimage. Pilgrims belonged to different social levels, both for education, sex and age. They traveled in small groups to help each other during the trip. The 3 most important destinations were Jerusalem, Rome and Santiago de Compostela. Certainly, commerce was one of the main reasons to travel. The spread of knowledge occurred from cart to cart thanks to the clerici vagantes. Going even farther, we arrive to 18th century, speaking of the Grand Tour. The Grand Tour is the journey of education that was made in 18th century. It was the prerogative of the scions of the European aristocratic houses, and it had as goal the training of the young boys through the comparison. The term tour explains how this trip is referred to a revolution, particularly long, broad and seamless, with start and end in the same place. It can also cross continental countries, but it mainly focused on the beloved Italy. The ranks of the grand tourists were packed and heterogeneous. The most conspicuous percentage was assigned to young people, aged between 16 and 22. They were often accompanied by tutors with experience, choose among artists and scholars that were older and seasoned to walk along the Italian streets. The driving force that moved this European migration is the curiosity. Since the second half of the 19th century, North America had become the land of thousands of possibilities. From 1840 to 1920, 37 million people, mostly from Europe and Russia, went to the New World. Immigrants that arrived in the New World came from the poorest region of the South. But the hardest aspect was the aspiration of each of these immigrants. In 1900, the United States recorded the highest number of dead people at work than any other industrialized country in the world. Tourism as a mass phenomenon was made possible by the social conquest such as paid holidays, the decrease in transport fares, and the decline of illiteracy. At the dawn of mass tourism, however, much of the population had no idea what tourism was, and it lacked a specific offer for this part of the population who was now able to have the opportunity to enjoy free time. The perspective that prevails is that of the so-called hit and run, the logic of bridges created by the tourism industry, and more people now go away for the weekend. In recent years, we have entered the phase of global tourism. Thanks to the considerable increase in air traffic and with the invention of computer, the spread of tourism has undergone an unprecedented acceleration. In recent years, how a traveler approaches a trip has changed, and thanks to internet, you can find any kind of vacation. Today, traveling is less mysterious because by using internet, you have a window on the world and many things can be seen from the comfort of our home, although the internet can never replace direct experiences. But is there a difference between tourist and a traveler, or each of us is both of them? A tourist is someone who has a 7-day vacation and a detailed itinerary to follow, which has been previously organized by someone else. It is a person who works all year and prefers to buy a stay at all-inclusive resort. The tourism industry wants you to choose a new world travel experience the same way you would choose a new jacket at the mall, rather than planning an adventure trip to discover new places. Families who book a vacation in a resort or groups of older people who buy packaged holidays embody ideal tourists the most. The difference between the two lies in the choice made on the basis of the character and the economic possibility that both have. The figure of tourist view in this way is not very tempting, but where is the wealth of the traveler? The traveler is the master of his journey. An organized trip does not give you the chance to experience what the place has to offer. The unexpected obstacles are avoided and the routes are established before departure. A trip is a great means for personal change because it forces us to interact with people, to learn about cultures and places that we are not familiar with. It forces us to be foreigners, to live like the local and to adapt to our new environment. It's the ability to choose the ways that give meaning to life that allows you to be free. If someone says that there is nothing to discover because Columbus and Magellan already exist, we can say that a discovery does not necessarily have to be made for others, nor does it have to go down in history, be remembered, or be made to become famous. There is always something that only we can see. Whether it is a light, a landscape, or a face, doesn't matter, because the journey is simply in the eye of the beholder.